Sankarson, for joining us for this interview. We all are going through this crisis, and this is completely unprecedented, and all business continuity plans of CIOs have gone haywire. So, and being a CIO of an essential service like banking, what was your biggest challenge in ensuring business continuity when the crisis started?
So we had a couple of challenges. One, we were unsure of what the scale would be. Initially, we thought the scale would be a lot smaller, and then it kept getting bigger and the timelines kept getting longer. So our responses had to be continuously re-graduated. We thought it would be a few hundred, then a few thousand people working from home, then turns out 90% of my workforce is at home. We also had a shortage of equipment. We didn't have enough laptops. We originally did not have enough VPN capacity, remote connectivity capacity, because till then VPN was a temporary solution. People would travel, they would need it. BCP scenarios were envisaged with a few hundred people for a few days, like an earthquake or a fire. We did not really think through where the full bank would need to work from remote places. So those were the challenges we faced. Progressively we had to address them. First, we started addressing through VPN because that's the solution. We understood the rest, and we scaled up VPN. It took us a while. We had 1 or 2 days the VPN worked very badly because we just didn't have enough firewall capacity to handle VPNs. Then we scaled it up. We used virtual firewalls. We scaled up firewall capacity. We did some tuning, so that went through. Then we faced a shortage of laptops. We didn't have enough laptops. We weren't able to source so many new laptops. We didn't have didn't have good connections at home. VPN is if it breaks even for a few seconds, the whole connection breaks and you have to log in from scratch. So connectivity became a huge issue. Then we said, so VPN works but doesn't work perfectly. Plus, there was also this fear that once you give VPN to such large scale, how do you know that somebody who's accessing it has not found a way to access it from a non-RBL laptop? Because VPN, all said and done, is access to our network. It is access directly to our firewall. And somebody who is competent enough at hacking it possibly can get through. We don't know. We try and restrict it to endpoints, but once the endpoints are in the outside world in the thousands, that becomes a different challenge. So therefore, we said our next stage is to move it to virtual desktops, where the control is much better. And we had a fair amount of on-premise virtual desktop capacity because we use thin clients a lot in our branches. But to purpose them to the public-facing world was not straightforward. And there also, they had not really been hardened for public-facing. And public-facing for long periods of time. We had not really done that exercise. And there was no time to do that exercise. We didn't anticipate a scenario where all our thin clients would sit at people's homes. So that exercise we started doing, and we quickly realized it's very hard to do in the lockdown mode. How do you get the specialists required to do that exercise? How do you get to make the changes? How do you do the cost-benefit trade-offs? So that's when we went to cloud. We said we must therefore find a partner who's used to dealing with large-scale public connectivity, where he doesn't need VPN, he can use his regular broadband, not log into any separate VPN with OTP, this, that, all. So VPN, we require OTP. Sometimes the OTP wouldn't go. Sometimes critical function, 2 o'clock in the night, the guy says, but my OTP is not coming. My signal is bad. And we get stuck. So there were many such situations that we decided that cloud would be the best option for us. Cloud means that the end user connectivity is simple. He is already using his broadband to see at the very least Netflix. So he already has a certain amount of home broadband capability and some devices that he connects through. Then it's a question of how do you enable that connectivity safely to our data center. So we worked with Amazon to set up Amazon Workspaces, which are virtual desktops. And the big advantage, of course, is that they're completely managed. And so the skills required to manage it are therefore quite less. It's not that we have to go through a long learning curve, because in this situation, there's no possibility to go through a learning curve.
Being a bank, do you think going for a cloud solution, was that a deterrent initially, or were there any hesitation around going for a cloud solution?
So yes and no. RBL has been relatively active in cloud solutions. We have about 50 odd production workloads on cloud. We've had a fairly long relationship with Amazon. So the reluctance was less. And of course, it helped that there was a crisis that people had to make decisions fast. So we did not face too much resistance there. There was no real hesitancy in that we cannot or don't know how to manage cloud. Of course, we still had to go back and look at the compliance rules, look at our policies to see what was allowed. But it was still pretty straightforward. And but again, yeah, as far as I know, we're the only bank that is doing workspaces on the cloud. So maybe it was straightforward for us, but not so much for some other banks.
How does Amazon Workspaces, how does it work for your workforce? You know, you mentioned about 90% of your workforce is working from home. So to how many employees have you extended Amazon Workspaces to, and how many do you plan to extend to?
So on a rolling basis, see, we'll still have a mix of all these technologies. It's not that any one technology answers all questions. But Amazon Workspaces is becoming our preferred BYOD technology. And we plan to roll it out at least initially to 30% of our workforce, after which anyway, by then, so very junior people don't necessarily need to come or do any work at all. I mean, they can't work really, like call centers, they can't really work without offices. It's very hard to do a call center at home. It's very hard to do some other operations that are physical in nature, like signing documents or sending out invoices or filing work. But a large chunk of our work can indeed be done from remote. So that's where we are rolling out. We've also realized that Amazon Workspaces is best suited for back office tasks, where you don't need to do a lot of your own spreadsheet work. Like I'm not doing analysis, I'm not doing correlations and risk management and so on. I'm doing day-to-day activities. I'm running a system, I'm running a job, I'm monitoring a job. Those kinds of day-to-day activities are more suited to Amazon Workspaces than a VPN kind of setup. So that's the first target that we are going after. We think we'll be able to adopt about 100 a day. We've taken an evangelist approach, that we've taken technology people and made them evangelists in this particular way of working. So we go to the business user and say, we have this nice new way of working. It has these advantages. Do you want to adopt it? And if you adopt it, these are the few steps that you need to do. Rollout is quick because they can go to Amazon's site and read about how to do all of it. And once they get connectivity to us, then the rest is anyway managed centrally by us. So rollout is very quick. But the familiarity, having to call users and tell them how to do it, that of course takes time. Because of the evangelist approach, and some of it is starting to get viral, that the people who were evangelized first evangelize to others and so on. So now the adoption has really picked up. From 1 or 2 a day, it went to 5, 6 a day, and then suddenly it jumped to 100 a day.
Okay.
So now we're at about 170 a day.
Okay, that's good number. So, at a time when CIOs are really struggling with enabling work from home, you've looked at an innovative cloud solution for working from home. So can you just briefly touch upon how does it work and how has it really benefited you since you started?
How it works is quite straightforward. You can use a browser or download a client and open up a virtual desktop session. That desktop is managed inside Workspaces. You'll get an RBL managed desktop, as if it's your office desktop. So there the user ID, password, the permissions, all that is managed by RBL, the proxy service settings, everything. And you can't, from your desktop, from your physical home desktop, you can't upload anything into that virtual desktop. And you cannot download anything. You can't cut and paste. Those things are controlled by us. And so it's quite secure that way. So therefore we are able to give a range of applications, pretty much any application that he could do from his desktop, we are able to give in that workspace. There are other technologies that allow zero trust, but they are limited to certain kinds of applications, whereas virtual desktop has no real limitation. It is also quite tolerant of which kind of end user computing, which BYOD device you're using. It can work on tablets, it can work on mobiles also, but the screen becomes a bit of a limitation. And it can work on your own, pretty much even your old desktops. It seems to work reasonably well. So we've tried out in a few different environments. So therefore the cost of supporting it is very low. Basically, we tell the end user, you figure out how to support your end user desktop and just read the few instructions available for Amazon Workspace on Amazon site.
So how does how does it help a cloud-based work from home solution? How is it helping you in terms of scalability and agility, which is really the key in today's time?
So obviously we are assuming here that Amazon has the scale to run. We are talking about a few hundred or maybe a couple of thousand desktops, and Amazon is routinely used to running 100 or 1,000 times that number. So we are not worried about the infrastructure scale. Where we are worried about is provisioning. Amazon is one of the companies that gives us ability to charge by the hour. So I can take one desktop for 1 hour or 100 desktops for 1,000 hours. They don't really have any binding contracts, which makes life a lot easier for us. Many other clouds do have various levels of binding contracts. And there you have to negotiate, you have to start thinking, will 200 people really work from home for let's say a 3-month or 6-month period, or whatever the binding contract period is. And then those projections become difficult, cost allocations become difficult. We have to go through a much larger budgeting process to allocate large amounts of cost. And there the agility really suffers. So to that extent, pay on demand, that is one scalability that we really appreciate. We don't have to go back and say, okay, today we have 200, tomorrow we want 500. Can you give me 500 licenses? And then there's the whole license cycle. That is how typically software works. And Amazon says, yeah, just keep going. Tell us when you stopped, how many it is, and we'll bill you for it. So that makes our rollouts, especially in this crisis mode, a lot easier. That scale out, where we go and tell people just go ahead and do it. And then we'll do an optimization cycle later on as we understand what the situation finally is going to stabilize at. And then scaling down also is equally easy. We decide to discontinue, the billing stops in the next hour.
Yeah, because especially in today's time when things are very unpredictable, you don't know how long the lockdown will continue. I think being agile is very important.
Correct. So we make an investment in a technology and then it turns out the technology doesn't suit us. Investment is undoable. And we've done that. When the lockdown started, we did small experiments with different technologies. We ran through a full gamut, not just one. We pretty much tried everything there was. Different kinds of video conferencing, different kinds of desktop environments, different kind of remote connectivity. And many of them didn't pan out. If you have to start buying licenses and then discovering it's not panning out, that becomes a problem.
Right. So my last question is in terms of security. I think, one can really not stress enough how important security is for a bank. And so how are you ensuring that a cloud-based work from home solution ensures, all the security requirements are being met?
So virtual desktops are actually quite a mature solution. And Amazon Workspaces has most of the features that you would expect out of a full-fledged mature solution. So we ran through a checklist. And except for some minor differences in how we do our on-premise device workstations and the cloud workstations, there is no real difference. So we were able to secure, using our existing policies, our Amazon Workspace desktops. There are some minor differences. For instance, Amazon doesn't have a good way of restricting workspaces to a particular physical location. Like I can't say all my connections must come from Maharashtra. I can, but that would require more configuration than is out of the box. Whereas on my on-premise, I can put it on, I have geo connectivity on the firewall and a few things. But it's very minor for us. Because of the particular environment of coronavirus, we don't really expect people to travel around too much and, as I said, sit in coffee shops or airports.
Okay. So security aspect is taken care of.
Yes. So by and large, we were able to satisfy our CISO, and of course, we'll have to satisfy at some point our regulator also that this is the approach we have taken and these are the risks and mitigations that we have followed.
Great. Thank you so much, Sankarson, for your time and great insights. So thank you once again and hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much.